All right, welcome everybody to Navigating Financial Conversations with Aging Parents. I'm Justin Obie. With me is Eric Benz, Principal of Fox Hill Wealth Management. And today we're really excited to talk about a very important topic, a sensitive and personal topic, which is how to talk financial conversations with aging parents. We think this is an incredibly important topic to discuss, and it's timely because it really, for a lot of you here joining, you're probably between 45 and 60 years old, maybe even on the younger end if you have older parents. And it might be you might have had a lingering thought in your head of like, all right, what if my parents die or one of them dies? What happens to their estate? And you really don't want to assume anything in this moment. But before we get into all of that, just a quick bit about who we are today. Fox Hill Wealth Management, we are based in Dedham, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston. And we are a wealth management firm practicing, we believe, in a 360-degree wealth management approach. What does that mean? So we talk about financial advising, investment management, estate planning, and tax strategy all within one house so we can work together to make sure every part of your financial health and wealth plan is taken care of efficiently. There's a few other things we believe in that would set us apart. Not only are we fiduciaries, but we also believe in the long-term growth of the stock market, the US stock market. We're big fans of that, and we have an active investment management philosophy. So those two pieces combined with estate planning in-house make us very unique and tax effective as well. I don't know, Eric, if you would add anything there. But
no, that was beautiful. Yeah, and we're a boutique advisory firm. So
that's right.
When you work with us, you're talking to a human, you're meeting with your advisor, we're building a connection, and all of that benefits our clients in the long term.
Yeah. And so let's just get into it right now. So today we are going to be talking about average cost of long-term care. What's at stake? It's getting more and more expensive. Right now, the average, we'll get into it, but it's approaching $5,000 a month for long-term care. And people are living longer and longer. So how are we going to approach that? What's at stake if you don't take care of these items today? Why is it so hard to talk about money with our parents as we transition from being a child and in their care to now being a partner and caring for them? And what precisely you need to talk about, how to start the conversation, when to do it, and it could be now, and who to have on your team and the documents you need to have in place. So why is this so important? 70% of people are over 65 will need some form of health long-term care. Hopefully that's not you or your parents, but it is a statistic that is true. It really shows how important it is to maintain your health in your older years. And that's another topic for another day. But the average cost of assisted living right now, currently in the United States, is $4,500 a month and rising. So as you live longer, that is real money. That's $4,500 a month is probably the mortgage rate of a beautiful home in some places, like gorgeous home, a lot of states today. So that's going to assisted living if you have to.
Yeah.
If you have an older aging parent, they with dementia, Alzheimer's, other ailments in their older years. And the average right now, the average life expectancy up from the 1970s at 70 years, it's now at 78 years old. So that's also getting longer, Eric.
Yep. And we have experience paying some of those bills from client accounts, and you're seeing, especially that's an average that you're grabbing there, Justin, in some of the richer areas in the US, you're going to be paying 10 grand a month, which we've seen that before.
Yeah, these are average rates across the country.
Yeah.
But exactly, 10 grand is insane. And it also depends. There are also other variables, like you just said. Like it depends on the type of care you need.
Yeah.
And what's required there. But if it does range. And then the estate planning gaps. If there's any gap in the estate planning that you put together, hopefully you do have some sort of estate planning, your parents do rather. But if there are gaps that can delay, that cause stress, legal complications, probate, you don't want that happening to your parents and having to deal with that once they're passed. So it is really important to do and have a plan in place, being on the same team with your parents, knowing, having everyone together, knowing that there's plans in place for when they do pass and that their legacy is protected. And I think it just builds, especially if you have a sibling, make sure they're on board, the spouse is on board, and you want to protect their savings from inflation, taxes, and poor financial decisions. So it's all important to do right now. You don't want them to outlive their money. Longevity risk, it's a real thing. So a lot of this is what we do every day with our clients. We're working with hand in hand with the team that you've created. So that could be a CPA, a tax provider, a state attorney. That's the full team. And sorry, just to go back, one last thing here. Estate planning gaps, what we say, like missing wills, right? Outdated documents, beneficiary designations, or the lack of trust planning. They're oftentimes overlooked, especially as things are moving. So we always encourage clients to, whether our client is you, that sandwich generation, 45 to 60-year-old person, or our clients who are older and retiring at 65, 70, 80, that they all constantly update those documents.
Yeah.
And we get to the real point a lot. Why is this so hard to talk about money with our parents? I think it's hard in general for our generation to talk about money, even with our peers. I don't know about you guys listening in the room right now, but growing up, for some reason, my mom would always say, we don't talk about money. That was just a cardinal rule in our house. We don't talk about money. I don't know if that was true of yours, Eric, as you were being raised.
Oh yeah.
But,
yeah. You don't ask anyone about it. Don't ask anyone about their house. Yeah. All that stuff.
it's like politics and money. We don't talk about that. And I think because of that, our generation has this stigma around it. It's hard for us to even talk about money when it comes to talking about money with our own parents. And there's this dynamic on top of that, that there's this power dynamic that's shifting as we shift from being the child of our parents, where they're just used to being caregivers. And even most of us, even though you might not be receiving financial assistance, maybe they're helping out with the kids, they're sending thoughtful, whatever it is, the year. It could be a variety of things, and it's all personal. Now you're becoming a partner and a helper to them, which is that it's uncomfortable for them to make that concession. It's
right.
And there's a fear of offending and overstepping. What can you do? What should you know about? What assumptions are you making and shouldn't be? So there's a lot of things happening here. And one thing to note is all of this is completely normal to feel. You're not alone. We coach a lot of our clients through these emotions, and there are ways to really deal with how to kick off the conversation, but also to have it so that you're not offending people. So we'll get into that as well.
Yeah.
So Eric, when should we have the conversation?
Yeah, you should just keep pushing it off because it's too awkward, right? No, yeah, you definitely want to have it before the crisis hits, because that's usually when everyone has the conversation. Someone's in poor health, someone's incapacitated, someone needs money. That's when you start to have those conversations before now you're getting to the point where it's much more difficult to get organized, much more difficult to make decisions because there's emotion involved. Yeah, key life events, retirement, health scares, moving, loss of spouse. Those are, ideally you're having the conversation before then, but you definitely be having the conversation when those moments hit. But then it's how do you start that conversation? Which you can start with framing it with L statements. So it's talking with care and intention. So rather than saying, hey, you're not organized, you need to fix this issue, I'm stepping in, I need to take control, we need to get these documents in place, yada, yada. You can say, hey, I'm worried about your financial future, or hey, I'm frustrated because we don't have any knowledge of this situation. I feel a certain way about it. And it'll be a much easier conversation. You'll get a lot more information out of it. And you'll be able to work together to, I don't know, figure out what's going on in your parents' life, for instance.
Yeah, and I love those L statements.
Yeah.
Approaching it from a supported place, like a loving place. It's not like I need control right now.
And when it comes to money and lifestyle and all that stuff, that's part of being human, is to have control of that. So it's very difficult to relinquish some of that control. And especially with changing dynamics, someone was caregiver, they identify as that, now they're no longer that. It's a very difficult conversation.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What are okay,
So,
okay,
yeah,
so
what
you
are we gonna
start
talk
that
about?
conversation. Yeah, what are you talking about? And that's why it's important to know these things before you get to that conversation, because when you finally get to that point, you can make it flow better, you get all the information you need, and you can be very helpful to your parents. Do they have estate planning documents in place? Will, power of attorney, which gives you authority over their accounts, things like that. Healthcare proxy, so you can make health decisions for them. Run through their income and expenses, right? As they get older, maybe there's some cognitive decline. It'll be important to know all this stuff so you can take care of things for them, or at least get a professional in place who can do that. Assets and liabilities, insurance coverage. Do they have long-term care insurance? Which we talked about the increased costs there. Because it'll be important to know, hey, they don't want to be a burden on you. And if they have that in place, it won't be a financial burden, at least. Housing plans. What do they want to do? They want to be at home care or assisted living. All these important talking points.
Yeah. I think it's just important to just have those conversations ready to go. So once we're having that, we have the plan in place and set to have these conversations. How do we get these going? I wanted to provide you some real tools here. Hey, mom, here's like a couple just quick examples, and we could do this. We can workshop this with you guys as well, and at a free consultation throughout. But one idea is, hey, I just want to make sure I want to honor your wishes in the future, right? What are your aftercare wishes? Making sure their legacy is intact and in place. A lot of people, we find a lot of our clients in their elderly years, they start really considering legacy and what they're going to be leaving to future generations, whether that's you or maybe grandkids. Are they generational skipping? Or maybe they're already helping in building that legacy. Some grandparents are paying for educational options and stuff as well. I think approaching it from a place of, I want to honor your future wishes, is a really good place to start. And using empathy as well. So being patient throughout this process is really important, and approaching it from like an empathetic point of view. What would you want your child to say if you were in their position right now? So another example is, Dad, have you thought about what support might look like as you get older? Maybe he hasn't thought about it at all, but it's a good question to ask, and it opens up the entire conversation. Another example is, can we review your will together so I know where things stand? It's a little more targeted approach, but it's also an open-ended question that gets the conversation rolling. The other key here, and I would say just a hot tip, is to focus on shared goals, peace of mind, family harmony, independence, and their dignity, and keeping that intact. One role we play a lot as a financial advisor is to play that third party, because oftentimes when these conversations are happening, they could be awkward. And so inviting your financial advisor or state attorney into the conversation is always welcome, and something that is part of our role in many cases.
It also makes sure that everyone's professional and on their best behavior too. It can be incredibly helpful. And with my own family stuff, like I'm a financial advisor, but I bring in an outsider when we're having financial planning conversations and things along those lines. There's too much emotion involved.
So important. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of emotion. Yeah. We've had family meetings as well, and just have that third party to moderate it, whether just as emotions rise and fall, and make sure it's like a therapist role.
Sure. I don't know. I think I'd be insulting all the therapists out there, though.
No, yeah, not a true role, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Get people talking and make sure everyone's heard. As emotions rise, sometimes we stop listening so much. Anyway, that brings us to like, who should be on the team. Okay. Your financial advisor, we at Fox Hill Wealth Management, we're a whole team of advisors. We're working hand in hand with our clients and the rest of their team. We had said in the beginning, we have our own estate planning attorney here in the office to make sure it's very 360 degree, very efficient process, but our clients don't have to use our in-house attorney. They can use their own if they already have one. And so working hand in hand with them, maybe it's a CPA, another tax professional, other siblings and family members. The financial advisor, we feel, is the center of this and building the team. So I think it's important. Any good financial advisor is going to have these contacts, and hopefully they don't have any sharp elbows where they're not opposed to working with the full team. Because I think it's imperative that the whole team is working together, just like you would want your team working well in your own business. The other thing I would note here is to involve other family members and siblings early in the process. So you don't want to go rogue and start pushing this rock up a hill by yourself. Getting the team, starting with, if you do have siblings, getting them involved, getting them thinking about it early, and then coming up with the plan together will make everything a lot much easier. You don't want to bring them in at the last second if they're not going to feel as part of it. And Eric, what are the documents? We talked about it earlier, but can you go a little deeper into these?
Yeah, we mentioned a bunch of these. You're going to want will and trust in place, right? Will tells everyone how your assets are going to be distributed, and you can name guardians as well. Trusts offer more control and privacy, gives you a chance to name beneficiaries. You can get a trustee, a third-party trustee that makes sure the wishes of the trust are carried out going forward after your death. Durable power of attorney, that you're granting someone authority to handle your finances if you become incapacitated. So you're going to want to do that with someone you trust greatly to carry out your wishes. There's also a healthcare proxy, which allows someone to make medical decisions on your behalf. HIPAA release gives someone access to your medical information. And then a living will, which is important. It kind of outlines what your healthcare preferences are when you become unable to communicate them. So that's for the end of your life. How do you want to pass? A lot of these documents are ways to delegate control to someone you trust, because otherwise, if you don't go through these things, people start squabbling, right? And everyone thinks they know what your wishes are. So it's key to work with an attorney, work with an advisor, make sure you have a lot of these kinds of things in place. Or if you're working with a parent, to make sure they have that in place. One thing I know we were talking about, Justin, earlier was thing to think about is passwords, usernames, all those kinds of things. Critical to have that stuff laid out beforehand if something
Especially
does happen
today.
to you. Yeah.
Everything. In email access, you want email access, you want, if they have a old school vault safe in their house, having that access. PO box, right. There's a million, the list is long, but that's essential and often overlooked. And that talk about aggravation. If you miss that, it's gonna be very hard. So common mistakes, Eric.
Yeah, we talked about it, right? Waiting too long, right? Till you don't want to wait too long. Things become much more difficult. What if someone's incapacitated? Making assumptions about what someone's wishes are. If you have all those documents in place that we just talked about, there are no assumptions to be made. Everything's clearly laid out. So that's why, hey, don't wait too long. Get that stuff in place. Forcing the conversation in a crisis, not a good time. No, that's why you start early. And then ignoring sibling dynamics. A lot of times there's a more trusted member of the family who the burden of care a lot of times it goes to them, right? And then other siblings feel left out. It really hurts the dynamics. Involving other stakeholders is very important for the success of a transition like this.
Yeah, totally. What about some tools and resources that people can use throughout?
Yeah. You mentioned earlier, we were talking about all the different people you can work with, your advisor, your attorney, your accountant. When they're all in-house, like we have here at Fox Hill, you can store everything in one place, right? All those estate documents, we can keep those in one place. All the financial planning stuff related to like your parents' income and liabilities, store in one place. We actually have a tool called eMoney. That's our financial planning projection tool. And then we have a CRM tool called WealthBox where we store a lot of these documents. And it really helps families stay organized. And when something does happen, they easily can access documents that they need. And your financial advisor ends up being the quarterback working with the estate attorney, working with the accountant to make sure like your parents' wishes are carried out correctly.
Yeah. So, I mean, really, how can we help? This is a perfect transition right there. As the quarterback, our team of financial advisors, we're really helping facilitate those family meetings, making sure either we're coaching from afar or we're actually actively participating as moderator there, building custom financial plans that include elderly care as your goal, making sure that it's all aligned together. So you might be helping out with that. This whole idea of the sandwich generation has come about right now as our generation is now taking care of our own kids and oftentimes our parents. It's a part of the financial plan overall. Reviewing estate documents and beneficiary designations, making sure investment accounts are properly designated for
That's
appropriate
that's a
beneficiaries.
huge one. We actually did a giant audit of all our client accounts to make sure they had beneficiary designations. If an account has to go through probate, it can cost 3% at the minimum, right, for an estate. And if a estate is valued at $1 million, it's 30 grand coming out of there right off the bat because it's running through probate. Whereas if you have those beneficiaries in place prior, you avoid all those issues.
Because probate is timely and you have to hire a lawyer to represent you. And it's just, no one wants to go through probate.
Yeah.
So making sure those are good. I remember Kirk, our attorney in the office was telling us a story about probate because it was an old stock certificate that was left behind. One of those old ones, Eric, back in the day.
Yeah. Yep.
It's just forgotten. And they found it later as they were going through all the belongings. So really important to update those docs. Referrals to legal tax professionals. That's if you don't want to use our team, we also have a team of other folks that we work with to refer out, and we really trust them because we can't handle all the work. Yeah, our whole goal is to make these conversations much more productive, easier, without the pressure or any confusion on your behalf. So it's important to just help guide you there. And just to take action today. Okay, so these are the 3 things we would like you to do if you do anything here from today's workshop or presentation. Schedule a one-on-one consultation with our team. Okay, that's free. Just do that, schedule it. You can go to our website, foxhillwealth.com, and click link, and it's gonna be free consultation. Just schedule that. Talk to your siblings and or spouse. Okay, so again, we talked about it earlier. Get those people involved today. Start thinking about it. Have they thought about it? If so, what's the plan? What are we gonna do? Let's go talk to mom and dad. Start the conversation this month. Okay, so make the plan to do it today. So get those conversations rolling with your internal team, your spouse, your siblings. Also schedule the time to go talk to your parents, your mom or your dad, and then schedule a time to actually have the conversation with them. Okay, that could be at their house in a comfortable setting. Maybe it's on a nice walk. Walking is a great place to do this if it's the first meeting or the first time you're having this conversation, because you're both doing something and you're both walking forward together. It's a great time to talk, or over coffee or something like that. But you don't want to blindside them where it's not comfortable. So take action today. Make sure you're doing these things. And then a little Q&A will save time for that. But we are, again, offering this free consultation. You can book here. And thank you, everybody who came today. I hope you guys enjoyed it.